I start this video, I want to point out that no, my hands aren't dirty. I just stupidly decided to dye my trousers from blue to black and I didn't wear gloves, so not my brightest decision. Today I wanted to share the tricks that I've been using over the last year and a bit to declutter my art studio, and I've managed to whittle down a lot of my art supplies to now fit into a small captain's desk. Now the most obvious thing to do if you have a set that you've bought like the polychromos is to go and look at the original website. They'll often have a different selection in sizes from 120, which is the size that I had, down to 12, and if you want to just use that as a guideline you can do that. But if you want to do it yourself and try and pick out a colour palette which is more geared towards you and the colours you use, hopefully this video will help. First thing I do is separate the ones which I hate, like these metallic pencils. There's no way I'm keeping those, so those are going on the side, and then I'm going to start breaking them up into categories. So I'll put the greens together, the blues together, the greys together, and this just helps you not get so overwhelmed by this massive display of colours in front of you and just focus on the individual colours. The first thing I will do is I will start working on the greys and the pastel colours first. You don't tend to see those reflected very well in a colour wheel without it being overwhelming, so I tackle these first. Once I've got everything laid out in a gradient, after this I'm going to be looking at a colour wheel. Like I said, this is going to be more applicable to the colours that I'll be decluttering later on, but I want a colour wheel in front of me just to give me a guideline of the kind of colours that I absolutely want including in this selection. I'm going to start going through the colours that I know I reach for a lot. This is a little bit easier to see on pencils just because you'll have used them up a little bit more. And another thing that I like to do is to swatch the colours on a paper, because sometimes the outside of the pencil can be a little bit deceiving. It might look like a pale pink, but it might have more of a sienna colour. So by swatching everything out, it helps me visually see that I've got a good selection, and it also helps me remember if that is a colour that I tend to use quite a lot. So I'm going to swatch all of them out, select the ones that I want, and then put a pile for keeping and put a pile for giving away. Next, I want to tackle all the colours, and again I'm going to be breaking them up into categories and trying to put them either into individual colours or into at least some kind of a gradient. Again, tackle these section by section, don't try and do the whole thing in one go. So do the yellows first and then the oranges. If you're not sure, again, swatch it out. And sometimes you can kind of trick yourself in your head and you get a bit of a scarcity mentality, or at least I do, and I think, oh no, what if I don't have this exact colour? Then just test it out on a piece of paper and see if you can make the colour that you need to. And odds are, especially if you've been doing any kind of art or drawing for a long time, you can mix the colours, but it's just that little paranoia in the back of your brain that thinks, oh no, what if I don't have this? Well then, odds are you can probably buy it back, and in all likelihood you're not going to. At least that's what I found over this last year, because there were a few things that I got rid of and I thought, oh, but what if I need it? And I didn't, and even if I did, it made more sense for me to buy back that one pencil that I did actually need than keep the other 36 pencils which I didn't. At this point I found that there were two blues in my swatches which were similar enough for me to be able to mix a colour that I wanted to if I laid it with some greys. So I just tested that out, and once I was sure I was happy with it, I removed that blue that I didn't need, and in the end these were the pens that I kept. I don't do a second run through. That I found in the past tended to be awful. I would start to pick all these colours that I just did not use, but it was just me thinking, oh, but maybe it's better to just leave it, put all those pens in a drawer, let them sit there for a week, and then at that point it's a little bit easier to let go and you can look at it a little bit more clearly. When it came to the rest of the things, like my pencils, it was very obvious to see which ones that I used regularly. I did a comparison with my Creta colours. I use these all the time, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have too many duplicates. There were a few duplicates, like white and black were colours that I use a lot, so I want to have backups. But then these are the colours of red with the elastic band that I'm giving away, and the ones on the table are the ones that I'm keeping. And you can see it's really quite a small whittled down collection, but it's amazing how once you actually look at the colours that you regularly use and have a colour wheel to give you a good guideline, just how little I ended up actually using. So I'm very glad that I've finally done this declutter, because it was long overdue. And as usual, if you like my videos and want to see more content, feel free to follow me on the mailing list. Do not subscribe to me on YouTube. That way you get everything sent directly to your email, and I'll have a new video for you soon.